welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Frivolity. This is our Broiler Chicken Show. We do this on the weekends. Kind of a show to try and help the current level 1 program students. Really anybody who's at TRI who happens to have questions. I don't know whether it's we are such great educators that you have no questions at all, or whether you don't believe Brian can furnish you with the answers to your questions, or there's just a really weird atmosphere going on. But I've noticed of late, we're just not getting people posting questions. So I don't know whether we really need to do like a 2-hour marathon. We're starting a little bit later here. Just because I don't think really we need to do like these marathon sessions right now. Chris and I have been getting together of late and putting together this nice little 1-pager newsletter that I do like to sort of talk off of. And I don't know whether it really is of any value for anybody if I go and start ranting like crazy about stupid politicians and destroying our lives, all that kind of talk. You all know how I feel about the politicians that are running my country. So probably a waste of time to go down that road again. I said it back in 2020, and I still firmly believe it. I think Mr. Trump's going to come just steamrolling back into power. And it's interesting how there's some oracle years and years and years ago said that Trump was going to be the last US president. And I wouldn't be surprised if actually in heading into the end of this decade, we do actually see some major social upheavals. That's half the reason, of course, why we're all interested in Bitcoin and all that kind of fun stuff. And actually, an interesting note, I think on my Twitter feed just yesterday, I was, I don't really go on Facebook very often, but Liam's birthday was last weekend, I guess last week on the 26th. And I went on Facebook, and that's where my personal Facebook page, that's where I actually post all of sort of my personal stuff about Liam. On this page, although I never know how to use this darn thing, so I don't really go on here very often. But I think you have, yeah, I think this is my page here. And actually, FYI, if you ever feel like, and a lot of people actually have, sort of making a donation to Liam, you can either do it through a Bitcoin or Ethereum, these QR codes, just FYI, people who wanted to sort of help him out and his funding. And I've told everybody, actually, I think I got up to about 2.5 Bitcoin with all of everybody's donations, and it just sits in a wallet for Liam. And if, the whole system goes to rat shit, or if Chico Crypto's prediction that you should be able to buy a house with 1 Bitcoin, if either of those come true, then Liam's made in the shade. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, the point that I wanted to make with this was, oh God, I don't even know where it is now. Isn't that interesting? I was replying to somebody, but again, I really don't know how to use Facebook very well. You can get it on your cell phone pretty easily, but I don't see the replies and stuff that I made on that. And I really don't know how to use this. What I wanted to show you, and I'll show you on Twitter, was actually there was a person who was, here's the Facebook page. they did a nice video on, what is money. I mean, they worked really, really hard on it. I still think that, in fact, we should probably even say here, for a more detailed look at this ongoing issue for us humans, watch the Money Masters video. And of course, all of you have heard, especially if you watch these shows on a regular basis, told you guys lots about this Money Masters video series, and I think everybody should watch it. It's a good 3-4 hours. It's very, very intensive. But anyway, where am I going with all this? Why am I saying this? Not a bad piece. The problem is, I don't think that this person, keep in mind, this is an absolutely exhaustive conversation. And the banksters, the way that they've manipulated the whole system, they know full well that they have to basically bore the public into the ground to actually pull this off. And so they move very, very slowly, very methodically, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the public really has no interest in this stuff at all. Having said that, wrote up a nice little commentary here. I thought that this video that the person they kind of ended on a weak note. Their argument was that, well, maybe we should wrestle the power out of the banksters' hands and put it in the government's hands. And I can absolutely tell you, in my country, here goes Brian, all fucking ranty now. But my country is a really, really good example of why you do not want to let governments be in control of the money supply. That's even worse than the banksters, because then you get like guys like Fidel Castro, and who's the guy in Venezuela, Chavez, right? And the irony of it all is Chavez was the big, I think that's what his name was. I could be mistaken. The big revolutionary. But what ends up happening is the guy's brother becomes a fucking total dictator. And then it goes, the guy in Zimbabwe, perfect example, right? You don't want to give governments the power to print money, because then the damn, all this politics and ideology and crap starts to get in. And then, once you turn the printing presses on, it is almost impossible to turn them off. You just can't do it. So, if anything, believe it or not, having the banksters actually control the money is a little bit better than government. But wouldn't that be cool if there was a way that you could actually take the power of currency and money out of all of these people's hands and create like a immutable blockchain, a ledger that's verified and validated through actual work, and people get rewarded for actually validating that ledger, and it's completely outside the control of any government or institutional power, centralized control. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? And the irony of it all is that I actually, 1,000 years ago, this King of England, he actually came up with the idea of tally sticks, which is a fascinating sort of like medieval solution to all of this, where quite literally the stick itself is validation, and a stick must match the other half of the stick, or, sorry, pal, we don't honor the deal. And interestingly enough, like this person who actually made this video, they actually started the conversation at the creation of the Bank of England in like the late 15th, early 16th century. And the irony of it all is that they didn't even realize that the whole reason why the Bank of England came into existence was because of the Great London Fire, and they basically burned up all the tally sticks. And was that done on purpose to facilitate a central bank? I believe so. Of course, that's up to history. So, anyway, that was sort of the response that I gave to this author. I still think it would be in this person's best interest to do a part two of his video because he kind of left it off. And as I said, I mean, you want to go to the horse's mouth. I would strongly suggest you watch that Money Masters video. Of course, on the YouTube page and all that kind of fun stuff, we have that as a link, although I'm not quite sure what I just did to the YouTube page, but it looks like I wiped it out. But where am I going with all this? I think that the answer, like I said, is being created with this Bitcoin concept. It's going to be like the internet money going forward. And interestingly enough, the powers that be in the United States, I think they can't even get in front of Bitcoin anymore. Anytime you hear them bitching and complaining about crypto, it's about things like, the gas fees about Ethereum. And then of course, my favorite guy in the world, when you talk about, altcoins and stuff, you get into these kind of conversations, this jerk. And sadly, of course, this guy has absolutely nothing to do with Bitcoin, but he has everything to do with the horrible, corrupt nature of human beings and how venture capital, unfortunately, does attract these dickheads. Because quick buck, I can scam you, take $1 million, $2 million from the market, and go live a life down in the Caribbean or something on the run. This is interesting. I never noticed this before, but you notice in the image, look at it, that it has an FU right there. I only recently picked up on that. I thought it was funny. But anyway, this guy actually, it turns out he is a convicted felon now, so he will have a felony record for the rest of his life. Anyway, so where am I going with all this? I did find it fascinating that, sort of the response that people had to my, well, actually the answer is really simple. It's Bitcoin. And it's staring you right in the face. And what's fascinating is this is the answer from the public, because this was some clown who doesn't really know what the hell he's talking about. It is not always, I guess he has typo gone up. I mean, I've been in this space 10 bloody years. It's done pretty well going up. I mean, hell, I remember when I first got into this space, it was like $100 or so. Now we're in the tens of thousands, 20,000, I suppose. I know people that killed themselves over its demise. Well, yeah, I mean, if you don't know what you're doing in this space, and this is gambling in any speculative market, commodities trading by definition is extremely risky. It is more fiat than the dollar. At least the right to tax is in the formula. Absolutely not. I mean, they don't know what the hell they're talking about if that's their logic base. Crypto has high security, but it is like building a proverbial Fort Knox to store compost. Not a perfect analogy because compost has real value. Bitcoin has only perceived value. Again, this person doesn't understand proof of work, and they don't understand the value of having a third-party validated monetary base that is beyond the control of central planners, governments, substitute drama teachers. I can't tell you, folks, how incredibly valuable that is. The sad part about it is this whole fiat currency system, it's all based on your belief that those things that you have in your pocket are worth something, because technically they're worthless. In fact, fiat itself, I think, stands in Latin for "let it be so" or something like that. And what happened? What the hell happened in 1971? Well, Tricky Dick, and I suppose that's an appropriate name for the guy. He basically said, you know what? Nope, we're not going to exchange US dollars for gold or make them exchangeable. They're not exchangeable for anything. And if you don't like it, you know where my phallical instrument hangs. And in fact, what's funny is the French actually drove up a big battleship into New York Harbor and demanded their gold back. And the Americans went, no, terrible. So I would actually say that Bitcoin has way more value than any fiat currency that's around. And I have a funny feeling, we have people on this site. One gentleman in particular is very celestially motivated, we'll say. And he's been suggesting to us 2027, 28 is going to be one hell of a interesting period. And of course, if Mr. Trump does win this upcoming election, he will come to his end of his term in 27, 28. And then I would imagine there's probably going to be a constitutional crisis. Can he run for a third term? And it wouldn't surprise me if might even have situations where like the state of California threatens to secede if Mr. Trump is given the permission to run for a third term. I could easily see something along those lines. And I think I said earlier, but I did find it fascinating that there was like an old proverb from a long time ago that said a gentleman by the name of Trump will be the last US president of the United States of America. So that's fascinating. I mean, maybe it dissolves into some sort of dictatorship. Could happen. Wouldn't surprise me. And as long as the generals are happy and the generals are getting paid, then there's nobody in the world that can stand up. In fact, if Russia actually stood up toe to toe with the Americans right now, I think it would be an absolute mess. It would be very similar to the way Iraq went down. Because keep in mind, Iraq at that point, it had like I think the third or fourth largest army in the world, and the Americans just embarrassed Saddam, and ended up fucking killing him. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes something along those lines. The only question is, does this all dissolve into some nuclear Armageddon? Yeah, maybe it would be a good thing. We hit the reset button and finally, start with a new world. Who knows? Um, so my response to this person was, do you actually know what value is when talking about Bitcoin? Because frankly speaking, I don't think they do. Based on your statement, Bitcoin has only perceived value. That's actually completely and utterly incorrect. There is value to the blockchain. There is value to having a third-party immutable validation of the ledger. And of course, that's all surrounded by proof of work. And it is interesting in this silly woke world. Keep in mind, the politicians that are in control right now are the same politicians that are basically owned and operated by the banksters. So what a big surprise. You're hearing lots of talk about how, well, proof of work is horribly environmentally insensitive, which I find a total load of horse shit. But they'll come up with any excuse to undermine it. But what's fascinating, of course, is that when push comes to shove, you notice that nobody in government is actually going after Bitcoin. Nobody. And I do find it fascinating that just even this past week now, we're getting news that ethereum exchange traded funds are now actually going to start popping up on the scene. Wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin ETFs pop up. So given this gentleman's, or maybe it's a lady or houseplant, who knows, they just don't understand how commodities are actually valued. This leads me to believe that in reality, actually, I mean, like they're saying, yeah, people got destroyed here, killed themselves, or you don't understand. Yeah, if you go and buy Bitcoin at the end of a cycle, like Bitcoin went from like 3,500 bucks all the way to $65,000 in like what, a year and a half, 2 years. I mean, if you're so stupid as to go and buy Bitcoin at 50, 60 G's there, then you're asking for trouble. You're an idiot. And that's probably half the reason why I don't really have that many followers. Not that many people listen to me, because when you're stupid and you're an idiot, I will tell you to your face. Quite often, what ends up happening is I end up getting in fistfights when I'm trying to help you. Oh, well. So, because of this kind of response to Bitcoin, I actually think Bitcoin can go a hell of a lot higher because the public just doesn't understand how this game works. And then, I hate to say it, but, and there's Mr. Horse, what's over there on YouTube watching, and he's commenting. As I said earlier, 2027, 2028, the poop's supposed to hit the fan pretty hard here. And I've shown you guys these. Look at this. You can already see that my browser already knows exactly where I want to go. All I do is type in the word inflation. And here we go. I mean, I keep showing you the guys this. This is exactly the same part of the cycle that we're in. And what's fascinating about this, I sure wish, like the kids, like I don't even want to take the time to try and explain this to these people. I even said, I'm fine with your response. Great. If that's how you want to live your life, fine. But you just don't understand what you're talking about. The debate can end there. And, a lot of the prop trading guys years ago said, Brian, you're wasting your time trying to convince the public to play this game correctly because it's just a waste of time. So, but the point here is that we're actually, history is literally repeating itself. Every 80 years, we go through exactly the same thing. So the last cycle, of course, was the 1940s, and it ended in 48, 49 with Bretton Woods. The currencies were completely destroyed. All the people, all the wealth from previous cycles completely wiped out if you owned any of the currencies. Weimar, Germany, wheelbarrows of money, all that kind of talk. And they had to sort of say, okay, well, we're going to hit the reset button and we're going to mark the value of these currencies to gold. And we're going to try and sort of reestablish the system from square one. So here we go again. My hunch is by the end of this decade, we're probably going to have to do something along the same lines. And, the worst part about this is that, most of the public, and it's fascinating how you actually look at the inflation data because it's remarkable how consistent this is. So 1941, 1942, right? Same sort of thing, 2020, 2021. Inflation started to get absolutely crazy there in 41, 42, as they were basically getting ready for the move out of the Great Depression and into this whole new sort of paradigm. And then we're serious about inflation. We're gonna bring inflation under control, and we're gonna raise short-term interest rates. And sure enough, in 43, 2023, so sounding a bit familiar, you can see the inflation numbers start coming back down to earth. And they actually in 1944, they actually got inflation to actually print zero. 2024. Do we see a similar situation? Chris putting the newsletter together with me here. I mean, it's right across the board. All the headlines are, core inflation softening. And if you look at the actual econs coming out, oops, let's see. Can I go in? I can't go in any further. Hey, there we go. You can see that the data is. Oh no! Now what have I done? Oh, actually, well, and yeah, let's try and just stay on the newsletter. It's so hard to navigate on this darn page. Where is the scroll bar? There we are. Now, can I move over to this? There we go. All right. So, core PCE 0.1, right? When the market's looking for 0.2. Inflation rate out of Italy is, well, actually, it's not budging. Inflation rate out of Eurozone. Oh, it's coming down. So, I mean, we're right on sort of track with what's historically supposed to happen. But, and if anything, this is our window. We all know Bitcoin halving cycle. When does the next bull market come? There's an old adage in the market that just goes, don't fight the Fed. So as long as the Fed's talking about raising interest rates and humming and hawing and restrictive policy and all that crap, yeah, the market's shitty. But we even pointed out in our little weekly newsletter here that we're hearing a lot of talk that well, it's probably too early to look for the US Fed easing. It's unlikely that they're going to want to raise interest rates a hell of a lot more. I mean, there might be one more increase in November, but a lot of the inflationary data, and actually, who pointed this out very well was Larry Williams through the summer in our videos and talks on the site. I don't know whether I've mentioned this too much on these free weekend shows, but Larry all summer long and really in through the late spring was basically saying, look, I think inflation's basically done for now, and you're probably going to see a firmer stock market. I think that there's a couple funny sort of outliers that are kind of also weighing on the market. The market always gets a little jittery around these potential U.S. government shutdowns, and of course, why did the Russian Revolution happen to begin with? Back in like 1917, when was it? 1916? The answer is, and it's the same thing as why the German Weimar Republic collapsed. The military just never got paid. And that's the one vulnerability of the United States of America right now, is to all intents and purposes, they are basically a military junta. And if the military doesn't get paid, you could find that the generals come along really quickly and boom, instant coup. So as long as the politicians play nice with the military, and the military is extremely strong down in the US, then the Fakezi goes on. Yeah, you're democratic, you're free, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, if the military doesn't get paid, the United States of America could dissolve tomorrow. And like I said, maybe that's what happens with Trump in 28 and stuff like that, because he's always been in love with the military and the generals. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they say, look, you'll be our guy. We'll put you in power and we'll sort of continue along the sort of United States of America, wrap yourself in the flag. But Mr. Trump, you know exactly who's in control, and that's the way it's going to be. Anyway, we'll see. Only time will tell. So, we had this looming government shutdown kind of issue. I think it was weighing on the market, but I believe that the U.S. economy is incredibly strong right now. I mean, the fact that they can take interest rates from 0 all the way up to like 5% just shows, and it not like really put a dent in the US economy, just shows how incredibly strong the US economy really is. The question is, all of the bullshit economies around the world that, of course, are not based on rule of law, they're stunningly corrupt, and really, it's organized crime for that matter. Once you actually do start saying that, hey, the cost of money actually, money does cost something, and you can't just indefinitely just keep borrowing money, you are going to have to pay the piper at some point. Those are the economies that could be in really big trouble going forward. And of course, that's all about China. And frankly speaking, it's probably half of the reason why Vladdy went to war in Russia, because the Russian economy, a command economy at best. And of course, it's all entirely dependent on oil. So my hunch is half the reason why you saw the sort of stock market and stuff as weak as it is lately was just simply around, what the hell are these goddamn government people doing? But what was interesting, and we even sort of pointed it out on the TRI lounge here, that at the last minute, all of a sudden, oh, here comes the saviors. the politicians are going to play nice and they're going to settle up all this government shutdown stuff. What I do find interesting about all this, and I don't know whether Chris actually had this one, but from writers here, Congress averts government shutdown with stopgap funding bill, all that kind of talk. I don't know whether, did we actually put that in the newsletter? There we are. U.S. Congress avoids government shutdown. So I think that's sort of the games that are going on in the market. The interesting thing about the market right now, though, and of course our algo has been uber cautionary since the end of August. September was just an absolute train wreck, but that's what September is supposed to be. September is historically absolute train wreck of a month. It always is. I mean, every once in a while you get a September that's kind of, somewhat bullish, but 9 times out of 10, September is usually a crappy month. So I did find it interesting that, when you pull up the actual price charts, you could actually make a realistic argument that all they did was they just cleaned up the overboughtness of this market. So where the hell do I have that image? Over here. Here's the S&P 500. You notice, Brian loves his AB equals CD, so ABCD. So technically speaking, that's actually what they call a potential reversal zone. And there's the 200 period moving average. A lot of people like to use 200 period moving average as sort of a keep you honest indicator level. So put it all together, I don't think it actually makes a heck of a lot of sense to be thinking bearish down here. I think you're actually asking for trouble. Do we just go sideways for a while here and sort of clean up this oversold condition? Yeah, maybe. I don't actually see like a technical bottom here. I just see more of like, the selling looks like it's hit a bit of a crescendo. And now maybe we got to do some backfilling back to the upside, right? You could argue Wyckoff checks against previous breakout levels. Yeah, there is there's this tail here that probably could be eaten a bit. But at the same time too, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get a nice little counter trend rally back up into things like shorting levels. And then if this market really does want to roll over, we can roll over down the road. I don't think it's a good idea to get too bearish down here. Interestingly enough, our sort of longer term moving average relationship, that weekly relationship, it's still perfectly fine. I'm a bull. I'm not a bear yet. So be careful getting too bearish in this kind of environment. There's also a couple other things that kind of jumped out at me over this past week. The part of the market that will probably firm up first if the Fed is done raising interest rates is the small caps. And the Russell 2000 is a good proxy for the small cap market. And we've been sort of humming and hawing. What are you going to do, Russell 2000? Are you going to break out to the upside? Or are you going to break down and more bear? And it sure looks to me like we're just basically stuck in a trading range, of which you can see there was this prevailing downtrend line. We bounced off of it. But again, if we think about things like reload zones and all that kind of talk, we're coming down against the bottom end of the trading range here now. So I don't know whether getting too uberly bearish right in here makes a lot of sense. If anything, I'd probably say you're a little bit late. Also, as well, we do have an election year coming up in the United States. Usually the Fed wants to be perceived as not affecting the political landscape, of course. But so as a result, they actually don't, and this is sort of like I'm going to write this note down. This is what this guy says. And just, you're going to have to learn from personal experience. I've been at this stupid game for 35 years. So I've been through this a number of times. But through election years, pretty much the Fed will just go on pause. And ironically enough, that might actually be half of the reason as I had said earlier, if we go back to sort of 1940 and that last inflationary cycle, which is similar to where we are in this cycle, you notice that, yeah, we go through a period where inflation's nice and low. And, if the Fed gets what it wants, Mr. Powell has said that he believes that the short-term interest rate is now restrictive. So we should see the economy sort of tighten up. And if I understand correctly, there are like Evergrande is just basically on the brink of collapse. There's another big housing conglomerate in China called Country Garden, I think, and they're on the brink of collapse. They're like literally hanging on by a thread, which would be very Lehman Brother moment kind of idea for China, which would make perfect sense. This is exactly the same part of the cycle, although it's China and China's turn to go through all that, where they borrowed way too much money and they have to go through bankruptcies. And the sad part about it is that the CCP, of course, none of those people are going to get hurt. The people that are going to get hurt are the ones that are sort of holding the bag of these public companies in China. And I would imagine that probably anybody that has any sort of political power there, they're already distancing themselves. Like Winnie the Pooh, he's kind of like declared war on capitalism over there. Anyway, we'll see how all that plays out. But the point here is that I think, and 2024 is going to be your political year. It wouldn't surprise me if you actually have inflation at kind of its absolute lowest point heading into that election, so that the American populace goes, "Oh, everything's fine, man. Look how low inflation is. And, Biden's doing a great job. Oh, yeah, he's the man. He's the shit. Let's reelect him." And of course, all the banksters, Joey Diamond. Remember, Jay Powell works for Joey Diamond. Don't forget that, folks. I think most people conveniently try to forget that fact. Although I see my green screen's getting all screwy again here. I don't know if I can fix this or not. I'm sure Chris is going to be like, you're spilling over under the screen, Brian. Anyway, so is it because the Fed wants to be perceived as not being part of the political process? But you notice that inflation basically hits its peak, and then literally, like the election, of course, is in November. So if we go September, October, November, you can see that mysteriously inflation's going to sort of, the best is going to be right around May, which is ironic because this is going to be basically the halvening event right in this window here. And then we have to start basically, look at that. I mean, it's basically up, 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 up. And then what's shocking is look at the numbers as we get into like the third or fourth year of this next president's term. Look at these numbers here: 17, 18, 18, 19% inflation. Ironically enough, what we just went through there, this is going to be almost twice as bad. So, as it's taken me forever to say this, but as I pointed out, 27, 28 is going to be a very, very tough time for us humans. It'd be interesting to see if we make it through the other side. Anyway, here we are. I suppose the good part about it is we do have a friendly little window here coming out of 2023 and probably heading through, maybe let's say the end of 2025, beginning of 2026. We should, this little 2-3 year window here, this is our time to shine, all you crypto kids. And it was interesting because in the weekly newsletter, most people don't believe that. Oh, no. In fact, there's the guys that are saying Bitcoin's never going to go to all-time highs again. So we're already, and then of course, like I showed you the public guys, wherever the hell that was. These guys, I mean, they've completely lost all faith in Bitcoin. And of course, Alan doesn't help. He's just stoking the fire, dumping all of his Bitcoins and stuff, and all of his nonsense. So it's almost like creating the perfect storm that, we're going through the halvening event. This is exactly, price is supposed to be uber weak through this event windows, which is basically right on course. And then, we'll go through a 2 or 3 year rally where fortunes will be made. And what's fascinating is you're already starting to see the beginnings of it. We have one gentleman on the site who's a dedicated little old lady, and he sort of pointed out that I've been loading up on altcoins over the past year or so, in the bear, not really expecting anything to happen, but I'll know that the bull is here, if I can move this over, when I start to see the volume start to come back. And here's a really good example. This is TRB. And that, my friends, is exactly what we're talking about when we say we want to see the volume come back in earnest. And I mean, look at this damn thing. I mean, you can't buy it now. But this is how fortunes are made from trading. Is you got to find the W's at the bottom ends of ranges. And when the volume starts to ramp up, strap on, get ready. And of course, as the market's moving higher, make damn sure to pay yourself. You can see if you don't pay yourself, when this thing comes back, you might be holding the bag and they just bring it right back down to the bottom of the range. And I think there's going to be a few of these back and forth. But the key here is we want to see the buyers start to come back, and they are starting to come back. And, I think, last winter we had a great example of that in some of these artificial intelligence names and the insane volume pouring in. So there will be fortunes made here, folks. Are you ready? Do you have your plan together? Do you have your capital allocated? Do you know what to look for? If you don't, what ends up happening is you end up looking at this and going, oh, you know what? I'll just buy up here because, hey, this thing, it's pretty strong. It'll just keep going. But there are actually signs here that, hey, you know what? Actually, the bull's kind of done here for the short term. You got to wait for the next bus. So you certainly can't buy that there. But I definitely see a lot of this kind of anecdotal evidence. So that's why I wanted to include this one in the newsletter. This is what you're looking for. You've got to hunt for these W's down at the bottom ends of ranges. Can you do that? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I don't know. I will say that our education program does a pretty good job at sort of teaching you things like reload zones, teaching you the concept of volume impetus, using OBV to help you. As price was making lower lows here, you notice that on balance volume kept rising. That was a huge tell that something was going to happen here. I don't know whether I could buy it. I mean, I can't buy that there. Absolutely not. But, if we got a nice reload zone pullback, maybe a Wyckoff check of this original double bottom, I could probably go pick some of that up for a little old lady portfolio. There's nothing wrong with that. So the point here is that there will be bull markets. And what's fascinating is down at the bottom of these markets, when markets look like this, you get people that come out that literally say, oh no, there'll never be another bull market. And then this kind of shit just pops up out of nowhere. And you're like, wow, what the hell? So are you ready? The window is there. And then, the interesting thing about Bitcoin will never make new highs. Based on the simple fact that, they always say history rhymes. It doesn't repeat exactly, but it does rhyme. I think that there is another big inflationary wave coming. I think there was a popular social media person. What the heck's that person's name? I can't remember their name. Anyway, I want to say, no, I can't even remember it. Anyway, the point here is that, if you look at, let's see, how can we do this? Inflation in 1940s, maybe. There, all I can say is there is a person. I can't remember. The only thing you can say is person. So, but they did a really interesting study of inflation and what should this cycle look like. And the key here, of course, is you can see that the inflation spikes never just come on their own. There's always sort of multiple waves. And so this is what I'm worried about is that, yeah, we just went through this. We are coming down the other side. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's actually a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen in the States, but I definitely think something like China could easily tip over. Communist Canada easily could tip over. This place is a ticking time bomb. And that might cause a economic malaise, we'll call it, in places like the United States. But I don't think it's going to be depression or anything like that. But that might trigger another wave of sort of massive money printing. Yeah, Adam Nguyen said Lynn Alden. So that's the person. I'm not going to touch pronouns because, frankly speaking, I don't know about that stuff. But I think that's what this person's work was. So congrats to Adam. I couldn't remember that person's name. But the point here is just simply that if this is the case, then easily Bitcoin could go absolutely uber crazy and another huge run up. And actually, there's one guy on Twitter, and I've been sort of friends with him since day one with Bitcoin, good old Zoinky. And of course, he's been bullish of Bitcoin since day one. He's probably richer than all of us put together now because he just owns 10,000 Bitcoins. But this is his price forecast. And I even responded to him. I said, there are a lot of people that sort of looked at this and go, there's no way that can happen. Well, I tell you, if we are realistically facing another wave of inflation, why would this happen? And I think the answer is going to be they're going to have to turn the money printers back on. Hell, they might even, actually relieve the United States of its hegemony status, and we all start using IMF money units or, carbon credit money units. Who knows? I mean, the Bretton Woods event in the late 40s, it literally shook the world up. So my hunch is that, yeah, you could very easily, based on number one, the fact that the public is not long Bitcoin right now, which is fascinating. Where did that guy go? This guy, I think he's actually a very typical public respondent. I blanked out his name because I don't want to embarrass him. And it's interesting that the public still thinks of Bitcoin as, a buddy of mine bought it 50, 60,000 bucks. And of course, they ended up committing suicide because they're just terrible market timers. That alone tells me that the public is not long crypto and they're not long Bitcoin, which, and keep in mind, Mr. Fink is all rah, Bitcoin ETF. He wouldn't do that unless he thinks that there's some serious upside to be made in it. He was rah long Tesla from like nothing. And of course, he made an absolute killing on that. Now that Tesla has basically peaked out, you notice that now Fink makes no reference to ESG. He doesn't care. And he even publicly has come out and said, ESG is the responsibility of government, so I have nothing to say on the matter at all. Which means that he's not long Tesla anymore. He doesn't have any, he's made the money that he needs and everything is hedged and he doesn't really care which way the stock goes. So you put this conversation with this kind of imagery, wherever the hell that went. Oh, did I get rid of it? Oh, darn. This imagery, and I think Bitcoin's got a long way to go. And believe it or not, good old Zoinky, I don't actually think that he's actually too far off the mark here. And I hate to say it, but, good old Crypto Chico, he said all along, hey, you should be able to buy a house with one Bitcoin. Well, if you have sort of economic malaise and Bitcoin rallies up to a couple $100,000 a coin, and it's fascinating how, the replies I would have said that if I saw a bunch of people reply, "Yep, it's going to happen tomorrow. Yep, it's totally done deal. Yep, it's going to happen," then I'd say there's no way it's going to happen. But what's fascinating is this is the basic response, right? Right. Look at this guy. Never in the life of BTC this is going to happen. Do you guys remember? And that poor guy, I don't like to beat him up, but he's the only way I can remember him. And if you're watching this, I'm not beating you up, but you were a perfect analogy. There was a ship captain that through that big bull market there a year or two ago that was calling for like $7 trillion market cap on crypto or whatever, right into the height of the bull market. And the responses that he got from the public were, "Yep, it's going to happen tomorrow. Yep, it's all full steam. Yep, yep, we go. Um, and of course, that was horrible timing and a horrible call. He's probably going to be proven right down the road, but the key is you actually have to get the public out of the market, which is so sad. I mean, that's capitalism 101. It's so tragic. And I believe that the public has basically been washed out of the market. And so they're setting the stage for the next go round. And, as we said there just a moment ago, I can't see that this is not going to happen. And it scares me because this might be the dissolution of our Western civilization here, folks, very easily. It'd be fascinating to see what this world looks like 10 years from now. I bet it's going to look a hell of a lot different than the way it looks right now. And so there's probably a lot of people in this world right now going, bring it, bring it. Let's hit that great reset button and let's hell, I'm hearing a lot. I watch these silly YouTube videos and all this crap. I'm hearing people saying that and I hear this a lot now, which is scary. Is there was like predictions that by 2030 they want to reduce the world's population to 500 to 600 million people, which is basically like 1/10 of the current world population. Uh-oh. That's not a good sign. Have any of you ever been to the Denver airport? That's some pretty freaky shit that they got going on there. And how on earth can they actually justify some of those murals? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. So hint, hint, hint. The final response that I gave to this guy was, I don't know whether I put it in here, but buy Bitcoin. Go, just make damn sure you have some Bitcoin on the books, because you might find that the dollars that are in your bank account are completely worthless in 5-10 years. It wouldn't surprise me. Just kind of a shame, but oh well. And if anything, what I do is I own a little bit of gold stock. Hell, I bought some of those carbon credits things. I'm well diversified. And yes, I've got a whack of Bitcoin on the books. So go figure. Oh, this world. Anyway, I don't know whether that was of any value. Sure felt good to get that off my chest. I hope you guys fully appreciate the coming bull market is coming. And they have basically the public completely not interested in this space again. So it's kind of like just business as usual. Speaking of which, I suppose we ought to just take a quick boo at yield Bitcoin. Give you a sort of a summary of what I'm seeing off the higher time frames. One way that you actually get the public to not be interested in a story like this is actually just to get it go sideways for a good 6-8 months kind of idea, and the public's going to lose all interest. Then you engineer these face rip rallies that happen over like a week or two period. Keep in mind, Larry Fink goes on CNBC, and in 1-2 weeks, that basically is the entire summer bull market. Boom, just like that. And then, all the kids, of course, are all glued to their screens. They probably FOMO bought in here, and then they spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 weeks, bringing the market right back down to where it started from. Pretty typical, trying to get the public completely not interested in this anymore. to the point where if the public does see a rally, then they're very skeptical. Oh, no, they're just going to fade it again. And once the public is at that sort of stage, then that's when they're going to launch this thing. Of course, I still think that that has to happen following this halving event. And that's the whole 4-year cycle kind of conversation. So in the short term, of course, we've just basically sat in a trading range here for now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, almost 7 weeks. So the better part of a couple months. We face planted, then just gyrated back and forth, brush the moving averages to the upside, brush the Peter Finks candle body lows, and wicks and tails like to be eaten, and big fat round numbers and 38.2s and all that kind of stuff to the downside. Candle body highs and lows for a trade location. Not a bad area to be thinking about buying down there around that 25, 26 area. And this is actually what I would call, we're slowly climbing the wall of worry. And the problem, of course, is that we've got just a ton of resistance here. This is a brick wall of resistance. So we're just stuck in a trading range. And the problem here is that me personally, and this was the response that I had to this other gentleman, and I don't think he understands that, and I also don't think a lot of the public understands this, is that I believe that even now we are much, much higher than the cost of production for Bitcoin, right? And this is what I kind of bitched at this guy is, do you actually understand what value is? I definitely think that Bitcoin as a mutable third-party validated ledger that can't be fucked with by banksters, governments, or autocrats, beautiful. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's a buy at $25,000. And then some clown responds, well, XRP, not Bitcoin. You clearly don't understand what the fuck XRP is, because this is stupidity talk. When somebody says something like XRP is this third-party validated through consensus immutable blockchain, that's not XRP. XRP is totally centrally controlled. XRP is a beautiful remittance vehicle, but it's not a store of value. That's almost laughable. So my response was, as if, laughing my fucking ass off, you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. Again, this is a really good analogy of how uninformed the public is. They just don't understand. And that's fine, because they're going to end up getting crushed. But, let's bring this full circle. What is the value of a Bitcoin right now? And a lot of crypto people don't like when I have these conversations. But good old Bitcoin, steady cost of production. And this was super cool because my buddy Shane, he actually keeps track of what the hell it actually costs to mine one of these damn Bitcoins. And of course, every generation, they come up with newer and newer and newer equipment. And he even said you can go to a website. It's called ASICsminervalue.com. And he pulled this image up for me. And he said, well, man, Brian, you can do the research yourself. So this is the newest equipment. This is the S21 Hydro at 338 tera hashes, something like that. I don't know. And then there's supposed to be like a XP Hydro 2.0, but I don't know how all this stuff works. But anyway, you can see the numbers here. I mean, there's pretty straightforward. So, we plug the variables into the formula. And of course, it helps that Shane knows what the hell he's doing, because I mean, I've said repeatedly, I'm an old trader, gnarly dude, broker dude. I'll help you with your financial planning. I'll help you with timing trades and, building a plan and all that kind of stuff. But I'm no crypto expert. So I lean on our community for this stuff. And we basically plug the numbers into his formula. And so this S21 Hydron stuff, there are the numbers. So this one right here says about 11,700 bucks. And this one says $10,400. Now, I don't know whether you believe that or not. I mean, I have seen other crypto miners that are publicly traded companies that say that they're running such massive operations and they have economies of scale with electricity that they're not like, this is assuming that these guys pay 6 cents an hour. And there's some that are like 6 cents, that's laughable. I'm like doing 1/10 that cost because they're running like 10,000 mining rigs. They have this massive farming operations, so they can get really discounted rates from utility companies. But anyway, point of the matter here is, even if you were using this equipment, now, if I understand correctly, this equipment doesn't really come online until the spring, and the equipment itself is very expensive. So this is beyond you or I doing this. But the point here is, if you want to try and figure out what value is when it comes to a commodity, you always have to think cost of production. And maybe people are using the S19 XPs right now, and you can see cost of production sitting $14,000. My hunch is, just call me crazy, most people do, we're actually going to go and revisit this low here, and they might even break these lows just to wash out as many weak hands as possible before the upcoming halving event. So I've been cautioning people about this. Of course, if we look back on the last cycle, this obviously had all the sickness and stuff involved, but you can see how they had to bring the price right back down to the original bottom. Do we look like this? Believe it or not, I actually think this go around, because keep in mind, the banksters, they are jerks. They would do this just to flush out as many weak hands as possible, knowing that the halving event will happen and price will just literally ratchet itself straight back up following that halving event. Maybe even following whatever this climactic, in the markets, they call these like capitulation events. So I'll be looking for some sort of capitulation event over the next, what is it? It's now officially October, and that halving event happens in April. So sometime over the next 6 months, I do like the idea that they have to bring this market down, which ironically enough is actually going to be basically right in this guy's wheelhouse. He's going to be perfectly happy with this. And he's going to go, see, I told you so. The price is totally crapping out. It's collapsing. I could easily see Bitcoin lose 50% of its value right now. And all the media and the talking heads and all those people are going to be like, Bitcoin's crashing. It's crashing. Maybe they bid the damn thing up, back up into our weekly resistance levels, like I showed you. Where's the weekly chart? I think resistance is up here around 28 Gs. 50% haircut from those levels, $14,000. Bitcoin's crashing. It's worthless. 50% total crash. And all they've done is they've just literally just brought Bitcoin back down to quote unquote value. That's what I think is going to happen here. And it's going to be exactly in this guy's wheelhouse. He's going to be like, I told you so. But I even replied back to him, do you understand cost of production? If you're going to invest in commodities, remember, I was a commodities broker forever. So, this was my bread and butter. The only way an investor in commodities can actually find value in the commodity is, what's the cost of production? Yes, there is definitely a cost of production for Bitcoin. It's not zero. The proof of work is valuable. It's unfortunately about 50% of what the current market price is. And that's actually very normal. If you think about it, commodities shouldn't trade at the cost of production, because then there wouldn't be anybody incentivized to be in the business. The reason why commodities trade at a premium to the cost of production is the guys produce the Bitcoins and then can sell them into a marketplace at a premium, and that covers all their costs, and they actually make a profit at the business. That's the way the commodities industry works. So the irony of it all is, what ends up happening is Crashes do nothing more than just bring price back down to value. Anyway, that's basically commodities trading 101. Does anybody listen? Doubtful. But this guy, all right, this guy, he's smarter than shit. This guy's a very, very smart character. So the fact that he's now starting to talk about, oh boy, here we go, get ready for the next cycle. Yeah, I would respect that message, I really would. It's remarkable how cliche all of this is. It's stunningly cliche. And actually, I even put out a tweet a while ago that I think actually is totally perfect sort of summary for all of this. Let's see. It was a little bit ago. I mean, God, if you, also too, just FYI, if you're watching this public broadcast on YouTube here, on the TRI channel, keep in mind we do a weekly show with the good people at Coinigy. I'm trying to figure out how we get these videos actually on the TRI page as well. That would be good. I've got to figure out a workaround. Chris, maybe you can think about this while I'm out on the road with Liam. How can we get this video? And maybe it's just something like we go to our channel page and we create like a listing here. Like I used to do these crypto commodity community shows on my own a while ago. I guess this is a crypto top 100 review. It kind of didn't go the way that I was anticipating it would go. So as a result, I decided I really did want to get working back with the Coinigy people again. So I kind of like ended this and started up again with the Coinigy people. And I really like it as a show for people who really don't know what they're doing in the market to really learn the basics of this. And the guy that I'm doing the show with at Coinigy, he doesn't understand trading and technical analysis, and that's fine. That's the way it is. And it's actually quite a pleasure to try and just teach him the basics of this. So do yourself a favor if you're watching this show, tune in to these Wednesday shows on Coinigy. And of course, they have a page and these shows should be available on their page as well. There's a nice plug for the Coinigy people. But here's another example. This is a really perfect image of, first off, how do you read this line? And for whatever it's worth, and if you are getting any value out of all that rant that I just did about, inflation and all that, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification so that you get notified when these videos come up. Try and spread the good word about what we're doing here. If you get some value out of what I'm about to say, like I said, just the best thing you could possibly do is tell a friend about this channel. And of course, how much does it cost for this information? Nothing. So that's got to be a good thing. Anyway, how do you read this line? There's no wrong way to read this line. It's not like you have to read it this way and you can't read it that way. It's really just a question of perspective. And it's also the same sort of thing with trading. There's not really a one right way to trade or one wrong way to trade. It's more like we have to figure out what sort of works for you as an individual. Interesting. Coinigy or the YouTube video is really delayed. Why is my video so delayed? All right, yeah, there we are. Okay. And I noticed a whole bunch of people just left. Well, that's got to be a good sign. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe you guys in the if anybody, there's still 30 or 40 people watching. Type in the text box there. What do you think this line actually says? Like space the words out. As I said, there's no right or wrong way to read this. It's really more a question of your perspective. I look at an image like this and I say, man, there's a lot of money to be made in a name like this. And, unfortunately, like I said, the public, they're kind of like, Well, I'll come in and buy this here. No, 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 that's wrong. You got to be hunting for these things when they're down here. Well, isn't that what this guy is doing right now? Wherever the hell the damn image went. Was that over here? I mean, isn't that the same thing? And oh, by the way, these guys are in the same business. Well, nice. A samurai. Samurai. Samori? Samori, beg your pardon. Paul says, well, in my humble view, opportunity is now here. Paul's been around with Brian for a while, so I think he understands this message. I tell you, to me, this looks like there's so much money to be made on something like this. And yet the irony of it all is that if you actually ask the public what they thought of something like this, they would probably read this as opportunity is nowhere. Like I said, it's not really like there's a right or wrong way to read this. The right or wrong way is, what is your personal disposition? It's all perspective. So there's a really, really good analogy of this market state. And again, I had great conversation with the Coinergy people over that. But I did a 3-panel look at, oh, Jesus. Hello, what's all this? Look at Bitcoin. I don't know where it is, though. How long ago did I do that? Yeah, here it is. And ironically enough, I think actually history is just repeating itself. Yeah, and as Paul says there, the public is long gone. They're not interested in this stuff at all anymore. So, I mean, you can see huge face rips, face melt back down, face rip, face melt back down, face rip, face melt back down. Geez, this looks kind of familiar. Notice 85% correction. 85% correction. And this is what leads me to believe that they need to wash these lows. 77% correction. That's a bit odd. And where is 85% correction? Well, that would take us to just slightly below those lows we saw last November, December. Also notice too, what letter of the alphabet does this look like? Keep in mind, these are monthly price charts. Does that look like a W? Not really. This was interesting how they went straight up. There's no W here, but notice they had to bring her all the way right back down to the lows. And actually, a guy that does videos now with the Paul guy there, he was famous at TRI because he stepped in and he actually bought this level right here. Like a badass. I think he actually learned all this reload zone bullshit that the Beamish guy is always spitting out. So, but you can see here back in this cycle, beautiful W. But again, you see how they really had to bring the market back down and test these lows. So that's why I ultimately think there's got to be some sort of test of these lows. It might just be that they bring it down and eat this tail here and maybe pivot it somewhere here. But given our conversation about the cost of production, how inflation rates the middle of next year are probably going to be pretty low heading into that election. So people are going to be like, well, we don't have to worry about inflation. That's old news and all that kind of crap, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin, they actually bring it right back down to the bottom. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. But understand, I don't think we're done. This whole money printing, hyperinflation, great reset. Thanks, Klaus. We have infiltrated cabinets. Oh, God, the conspiracy is just disgusting. And of course, substitute drama teachers. Somebody asked substitute drama teacher why he lost his job at that school in Vancouver. It's interesting how he always avoids answering that question. But then, I thought Canada was actually a pretty respectable country. But it actually turns out this gentleman has pointed out repeatedly Canadian governments are as corrupt as fucking governments go in this world. I mean, this substitute drama teacher, the corruption is just disgusting how insanely corrupt the guy is. And he never gets held to account. It's baffling. In fact, I think I even tweeted out, I thought that these politicians were supposed to be held to account, and yet they're just not. And so like right here, this one here, this was an absolutely stunning corruption by this substitute drama teacher a few years ago. I mean, just if this happened in the United States of America, holy shit, it would be worse than Watergate. It's 100 times worse than Watergate. And yet, never anything came of it because of the fucked up way parliamentary governments work. Ugh, sad, really. Anyway, Brian wasn't supposed to get on rants about substitute drama teachers, though. So let's get out of this conversation vein. Okay, so hopefully you've got a pretty good idea what Brian's thinking about with regard to Bitcoin. I summarized the idea and the conversation off of the weekly price chart, but if you drill down to the daily price chart, you see, there was a ton of technical reasons to look for the market to pivot off of Mr. Fink's I want a Bitcoin ETF bullshit bottom there. And then now there's a ton of technical reasons for why the market should stall out here somewhere around 27, 28,000 bucks. So I still think we are very much stuck in a trading range. I will say, though, that what this opens the opportunity for is all the lower time frame players, all the lower time frame guys that love to zip in and out of the markets and trade setups and stuff. They're having a field day with this market. And I think there's actually 3 different technical setups that came in here that actually put a base in. A week or two ago, I was talking about bearish setups, and we had one that worked fairly well, and then we had another one that was basically stopped at scratch. And now the bullish setups are firing here. So we had things like TRI's algo actually turn back up. And the algo is still sitting very bullishly, interestingly enough, both the universe and the crypto top 30. Crypto top 30, look how many 5s there are on our screen. By the way, this is a pretty good idea. It just needs a bit of momentum confirmation. There are a lot of cryptocurrencies that could rally smartly here. Look at the whole damn list. And ironically enough, the only ones that really aren't 5s that are like screaming buys here right now, in my opinion, are things like Bitcoin. Bitcoin actually gets like the worst rating on our technical attractiveness score right now. If this was a 1, that would actually be an outright short. So it's kind of ironic. And, it's just simple logic, right? All this does is say, what's a 52-week high? What's a 52-week low? So the mean is the 50% rule. And that's really sort of think of the mean as like a magnet. So you can see Bitcoin sitting at 26 G's, and the magnet is sitting down there at 23,000 bucks. So it makes sense. But the irony of it all is most of these cryptocurrencies are actually well below the mean. Like Atom here, it's sitting at $7. The mean is 11 bucks. What the fuck? That's pretty attractive. So that's going back and sort of all this talk about things like Link and this little guy here, right? Hopefully you can see if you just did 52-week high, 52-week low, what's the mean? Well, that's probably somewhere in here. So if we get a W that comes in down here, well, you probably expect a rally. And sure enough, boom, there's your rally. Merry Christmas. So there's a lot of really attractive names in the crypto space. If these things spit out 6s, then it means, holy shit, these things are buys and you better get in there because they're about to take off. We're not quite there just yet, but I get the feeling that the market is relatively happy here. Now, I'll leave all that kind of conversation. We don't really want to go into the dashboard and the algo trading and stuff too much here in this free broadcast. What I will say is just that, like off the newsletter, with regard to Bitcoin, we are pointing up here in the short term. I think they're going to rally her up into some resistance here. I actually think that the stock market's a little bit overdue. It's been going down forever here. And now we actually have the stock market starting to spit out things like oversold conditions. Also notice too on the histogram, we've got the country funds are officially oversold here on the short term, and they're almost oversold here on the medium term, which means to me we're probably going to get ready for some sort of rally the other direction. You can see the S&Ps, we're getting close to oversold, not quite oversold yet. So we could still swim around here a little bit against the lows. But you can see this breadth chart. I mean, we've been going down now for about a month and a half. Usually the breadth turns about once every like 2 months or so. So we're probably going to take a few weeks here through October to put in a W like you see here. And you notice like at this point, like right there, that August 24th, the market wanted to have a bit of a rally, relieve the oversold condition. And look how the country funds were nicely oversold there. So do we get that kind of situation? And remember, I think it's China and, obviously Russia's a shit show. But, things like European bourses, Canada, of course, is Canada's a short, don't go there. But the point is that I actually think the United States of America is actually like one of the better places in the world to have some money working right now versus all these other countries and stuff. But at the same time, too, you can see country funds are getting pretty washed out here. We're almost oversold. I think over the next week or two, I think some sort of bottom is going to come in here. And of course, this is so typical, right? Let's see on YouTube whether you guys can remember this. Buy when it what? And what usually happens at the end of October, the beginning of November? What usually starts happening in like the eastern portion of North America? Not so much in your land, Adam. I think you don't have to worry about it snowing in California. But I mean, this is just so cliche. If a bottom did come in here over the next couple weeks, it'd be like the middle of October, and then we did some swishing around through early part of November to set the base for the coming rally. It would make perfect sense. It would just be business as usual. So, all right. Hopefully, I've talked my piece there. Anything else off the newsletter we should mention here? So we talked Bitcoin. We talked a little bit. I mean, follow the volume, eh? Like I even purposefully asked Chris if we could put this in here because this is exactly the image that you need to understand. Volume speaks what? I mean, another example of this, if we look at what happened to names like that, and there is the damn chart. I mean, look at that volume. Volume speaks what? Remember RNDR from back in the winter. Volume speaks what? Buying. Ah, and up goes the price. So I hope you guys can understand this. This is one that Stewart likes. Look at that volume. All right, that's what you want to see, folks. And of course, look at, I mean, this thing's still working its way higher here. All right. I'm going to circle around now and take a look at that Q&A document. But I didn't see any questions there earlier, so I don't know. And then I'll look at the YouTube comments. If there are any questions in there, I'll try and address those. And if not, then I guess Brian will finish up earlier today. I don't know, has anybody gotten any history lessons out of today's rant? Hopefully I gave you some good history there. This is a really good conversation. You know, they always say if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to what? Who can finish that sentence? If you don't learn from history, you're doomed to what? And I get a funny feeling the humans did not learn. They did not learn. Yeah, that's right, Luke. So sad too. Guilt. Actually, I'm teaching. Is that my same guilt as in the? You're in the level 3. Yeah, you're right, Cole. Sucks. So true. These silly humans, they just don't learn. Mind you, I think a few of you learned. What do you think, Adam? Have I changed your life for the better? Before you knew me, did you understand half of this crap that I impart on you? Adam's turning into one hell of a damn good trader. I'd have to say, he and his buddy Ed, the Californians, they're in the day trading group. Man, it's so fun hanging out with. G as in George, so Jilts, Jilts. I don't know. Am I supposed to pronounce it? G as in George, Jilts. Oh, hey, thanks, Ryan. That's a nice statement. Hey, there you go. Perfect. Well said, Adam. And keep in mind that that's what we're really trying to affect here, right? We're trying to make a positive difference in this world. Really, actually teach you guys this, and well, anyway, enough stuff. Okay. All right, let's pop back on over to that AMA document. Hey, somebody actually said something. Yay, here we go. So we got a question. In Friday's after party, you described the crude oil trade that you looked before the pit opened. Oh, I know that fucking trade pissed me off. Within your explanation, you mentioned the 80-20 rule in crude. Could you explain what this is, please? Well, it's not really, it's the same. You know what this is? It's the same as when I used to bark at you guys about Hoag's 80% rule. And then one of my instructors actually said, well, it's not technically a rule. And it's like, all right, fine. So we called it the Hoag 80% play. So if you're familiar with that conversation, this is kind of the same thing. It's from a guy who's been trading crude forever, and only when you're in the pits every single day and you're just like glued to the screen and it's the same conversations over and over and over, that what you find is that crude loves to pivot either off of the 20-cent level. So, and I don't even know if we'll even get it here or not. So this would be the 20-cent level up here. Or this is 20 cents. So you can see 93.20, there's 93.80, then 92.20. Well, it's a bit low. There we go, right there. 20, 80, 20. There's a little drawing. There it is. 80. Where's 80? There it is. 20. And then, oh, what a surprise. Look where they finished the market. 78, 79. So, if you study these markets over the years and you fancy yourself a crude oil trader, it's a good rule of thumb, if you are looking for pivots, to look for them around that 80-cent level. And what that means, if we pivot, say, a high off of 80 cents, suppose that's not a bad example. What's that high there? That high is 72, so that's even a little bit low. But notice like how we swam down here and then finished right in this, well, I guess that's in the 60s, but then we opened up the next bar, went shooting up. hit a high there of 24, right? So, often these pivots will come in right around these sort of 80 or 20 levels. So I like to keep an eye on them. I mean, and this was the interesting thing about this trade was that as they were coming into the pit open, there was the double top. And I mean, that was ridiculous. One trade right there could have easily made your entire month's production. And I was short. And I broke my trading rules putting this short on ahead of the pit open. There's the pit open, which is what I should have waited for. And of course, the pit open, it went and confirmed this double top, right on the pit open. So you want to be short from that level, and there's the pit open right there, right? 11 or 6 a.m. my time right there. So you should have been short right from there, but I actually strapped on this short based on this M here, and I sat underwater for like 20 minutes as this damn thing was working its way up here. And I was just cursing myself, Brian, you're such an idiot. Why did you put that trade on ahead of the pit open? You're going to get stopped out. And then, of course, I was sitting there going, and of course, that high there is 93.10. And knowing that 80-20 rule, I'm like, you're so good. I was talking to myself, right? Journaling and shit. You're so going to get stopped out. This was such a dumb trade. You stupid idiot. So when the market came back down to my entry before the pit opened, I was like, Brian, the one thing that you have to do is you have to be the demonstrator of best practices. This was a bit of an amateur trade that you put on. So just take it off at scratch and come back and play the game again. Pit opens, and of course, the damn market collapses. Anyway, it's a trader's life. That's the way it goes. What it could have, should is. I had a challenging September. It was, if anything, is good because if it's one thing that trading absolutely does, is it humbles you as an individual. You're only as good, as they always say, as your last trade. And if your last trade was shitty and you made mistakes, well, that's about as good as you are. And I'm perfectly fine if I go through all of this combine stuff and I've lost my edge, then really I don't really have any business calling myself a teacher and an instructor for you people. So I have to be the demonstrator of best practices. So when I did that sort of amateur mistake, the number one thing you do is, if I'm the demonstrator of best practices, and I've made a mistake, number one thing you do when you make a mistake is you clean up your mistake as soon as possible. So that's what I did there. But the point here is that when I was talking to the community, I gave a whole bunch of reasons why I thought the market was going to go and run me out here. And I was just cursing myself about how stupid I was. But it turns out in this particular case, they did not take it up to the 20 level. Hindsight's 2020, right? Or no pun intended. So it is interesting, of course, that they finished the market here right at 79. So, like I said, 80 rule kind of idea. So, if anything, over time, you will probably see this more and more. It's kind of hard to talk to the public about this if you're not trading crude like every single day. You probably won't see it. And it might even seem like, where you're just cherry picking levels. I mean, it's interesting how the market pivoted right off of that level right there. And that high just happens to be 77, right? Pretty good example of that sort of 80-20 rule in crude oil. So that's sort of it's just like we're not going to call it a rule. You could call it a play. I mean, I call them rules. I would call Hoag's 80% trade a rule. But there were people in the past that go, well, it's not really a rule. And you're like, yeah, okay, fine. So we'll call it a play. But this is the same sort of thing. It's kind of like a rule of thumb, maybe you call it. that crude oil loves to pivot either around a quarter or around 3/4. And of course, if you think about sort of like the extremes, the very top end of 3/4 would be 80 cents. And the very bottom of a quarter would be like 20 cents. When really the market's trying to pivot around 75 cents and 25 cents. So I don't know whether that helps or not. Oh, there is Cliff. Is that you're the one who asked that? So thanks for the explanation, Brian. I paper traded that crude move down. Way to go. I was such a fucking doofus there. Oh my goodness. And this was such a weird combine for me. Because literally I had a beautiful setup right at the beginning of the month. And I even told everybody I was sick. I came down with a weird bug. And I watched the most beautiful setup come in and I just let it slip through my fingers. And it would have made like thousands of bucks. And then right at the very end of the month, the last trading day of the month, another setup came in that would have made you an absolute fortune if you just traded it correctly. And I let this slip through my fingers. And the entire rest of the month was just basically shit. Then nothing happened. It was just so September was a bizarre month for me. So, but anyway, it is what it is. And I am going through. In fact, actually, I think on Friday, remember in the after party, I had said that I was going to have to do some serious self introspection. Oh, that's the school spreadsheets. No, I take this stuff really, really seriously. If this whole TRI experiment collapses, I'm just going to go right back to trading. So I got to make damn sure that I can still trade. So had some great introspection through the week. Identified a few things that I noticed that were kind of derailing me through the month of September. So I did some major changes. I even changed the platform I was using, that Quant Tower. I really didn't like it. So I'm going to go over and do TraderBait, try my experience with them a bit. And completely overhauled my sort of process, make it streamlined. So less sort of, thinking and more just, hit the levels. And as well, the Top Step Combine, try and just streamline this. And just follow the process. Process goals are absolutely number one importance in my eyes. Didn't blow up any accounts. Lost a couple bucks for the month and on the whole. So basically, I was very pleased with process goals, but I just noticed that I really didn't like using that Quant Tower, and it was a little bit sloppy. And it just goes to show, just a couple days out of the month, you're a little bit off, and you can lose opportunities that would actually make your month. So anyway, that's how my day trading experience is going. The irony of it all is that we might, like the back testing that the boys have been doing and the trading of the algos. We also have a brand new, well, not brand new, you guys all know about it, but part of this service is Brian's sort of screeners that he's used over the years, and actually a couple screeners that I use. You're not going to find them anywhere else on the internet. They just don't exist. A concept like key reversals, nobody knows what the hell that is. It's a total beamishism, which I learned from a couple old gnarly old brokers. But the key reversals that you actually get on the system here, I went through over the weekend and just looked at the performance of the key reversals. Let's see, where would that be? I think it's over here. Not bad results. This was just September's signals. A bunch of trades are still working. The interesting thing is they're all in profits. We only had 2 losing signals from the key reversal signals, one in Morgan Stanley and one in MCHP, which I think is microchip thing. And actually, ironically enough, I think that's actually got a bunch of Bitcoin in it. Some really, really nice wins and wins that are actually even still working. And a bunch of trades that yeah, booked their initial profit and then were stopped out at scratch on the remaining, which is, in my opinion, a win. So seeing some great performance here. 10 winners, of which still 6 of them are still running. And 4 losers in total here. There's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So not bad numbers. I'm more than happy to live with that. You got a total signal, total daily signals, 27 signals and only 4 losers. That's not bad. That's like 70 some odd percent accuracy. I can live with those numbers. So long and short of it here is I'm pretty pleased. We could run. In fact, actually, Julian's trying to get this set up so that we can actually run the stock market models. And then I think I've told you that Sjord has actually got, although I don't know where it is, but Sjord actually has the Bitcoin auto trader running. We're going to run it for ourselves and just see how it performs for a little while here. Where is that? That's over here. And right now we're long, and we went long a while ago. He's got also some paper trading algos. I'm not overly impressed with this paper trading model that he's running, but he's doing it on his own. That's fine. But we are actually, oh, these are just all paper trades here. But we did actually take the crypto long signal with live money recently, and that's up a nice little chunk right now. So I think it's doing relatively well. So we've actually got a whole bunch of different what do you call them, pokers in the fire right now. And I will say, one sort of special treat that's kind of jumped out of the woodwork here, but I'm just so over the top proud of him, is Zach, our level 4 instructor, is absolutely just doing a badass job of spread trading options. So eventually, actually, we should probably actually get spread trades going off of the engine as well, but don't want to overwhelm Sjord right now. But you can even see in my trading plan, I have a whole bunch of different trading plans as well running. Little old lady portfolio. I've got a whole bunch of little old lady positions running in Bitcoin. I've told all of you that I think you need to spend this window now loading up on your crypto. BTC swing trades and algo trades. I haven't really talked to you guys too much about those recently, but you can get that information on the site. Stock check. My RRSP, I do tons of stock purchases and stuff in there. So, just doing my thing. And then, of course, the spread trading with Zach. And my God, those trades are just so beautiful. He's short the S&P 500 right now off a beautiful spread trade. So, I mean, just absolutely perfect. So, well, things are just humming along here at TRI. What I just have to try and do is just keep my nose clean and don't just be the demonstrator of best practices. All right, don't see any other questions here. So I think we'll probably wind things up here relatively soon. Hopefully that answers your question, Cliff. That's more kind of like an old gnarly old timer kind of rule in crude. I don't think the public would know anything about that kind of stuff. So I did not make any money on that one either. Okay, well, that's good. Slow and steady. Don't kick yourself too hard. Another one will come along one day in a different week. In the future, you will kill it. Yeah. And that's the thing with commodities trading, is that your number one job, absolutely, the number one job is just to make damn sure you can come back and play the game again tomorrow. That is absolutely your number one job. So don't blow yourself up. If you're going to take shots, make sure that the risk is relatively small. And if you take a whole bunch of little losing trades, so fucking what? Right? And like you said there, you're absolutely right. Slow and steady wins the race. Had a great example last week. Ed, Mr. Skedfinger, Californians. He said middle of last week he caught a big move in the market, and he made more money in one day than he made like in the past like 2 or 3 months, just because he happened to catch a market going the right direction. Adam here is his buddy in California. He can attest to this. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. And in one day, like Ed said, wow, I mean, I've never made so much money in one day before. And that's actually very normal in trading, like good trading, is it's like chip, 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 boom. Whoa, where did that trade come from? Chip, 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 boom. So you just got to make damn sure that you can come back and play the game again tomorrow. So, yep, you're absolutely right there, sir. Okay, I'll just go up to the top and just scroll through, see if there's any questions here. And if not, then maybe we'll just wind up here early today. MM says, hello, Brian and TRI team. Thank you for your Broiler Chicken Show. I already know it will be so. Huh. I send good vibes in the universe for your afternoon with Liam. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. If you could all say a karmic best wishes for Liam and I on the road. I was up at like 4:30 this morning. Oh God, terrible living on the west coast of North America here. But of course, I'm programmed right to be up at that time for the East Coast trading. So just maybe say a prayer, Brian. Please do not fall asleep in the front of the wheel while you're driving Liam around this afternoon. And I'm going to say a prayer for myself. This is a long, long, long day. Which is so sad because Sunday's supposed to be the day of rest, isn't it? And yet this is like one of my worst days for work. Okay, so good vibes and good karma. No questions though. So happy Sunday. Good morning. Talk, 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 talk. Yeah, that's about what you get out of me, eh, Mr. FOMO? Hello. Maybe you have an opinion about ETH ETF effect on crypto market. Probably coming tomorrow. One thing I did notice, like and hopefully you've probably heard sort of the theme of today's conversation. Probably the best way to look at the whole crypto market is maybe to look at something like that total index. But I have been noticing the Bitcoin market and the crypto market is catching a bit of a bid here. There is the ETH price chart. It's not really anything to get too excited about. Did we have technical objectives that were hit here? A to B. C to D. Oh, wow. Look at that. Right on the nose. Do you think that's an accident? I don't. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. So you can see they brought it right into this tail here. And that was basically the end of the sell-off, right into that. You've probably heard me say before, candle body lows for trade location if you're thinking about buying. So that's not a bad level there. The problem here, of course, is that do we have any W's anywhere in sight? Not really. I mean, what was so cool about this one down here, you can see, right? Down, up, down, breakout. And then, not so much here, but look at this one. Down, up, down, breakout. So we've got down. We made a new low here. We have up. Probably going to need some sort of down, maybe, like you said, first thing Monday morning, we gave a bit of a lift here. And then, maybe there's a rollover following whatever sort of dead cat bounce. Sorry. That sort of exhausts itself. Like if we go down to like a 4 hour, you can already start to see it exhausting itself. If we go, what I like to do is trade location, indicator confirmation, price structure, go. So there's a nice cadence. Market dumped. Obviously, this is a pretty important peak right here. So we go bang right off of that level there. So we can do things like reload zones against that high. Are we coming up into trade location? Kind of looks like it, eh? Do have actually this YW here, so that's encouraging for the bulls. That does imply that we could blast out through the top here. Good old chaos theory. So, yeah, they've got a bit of a head of steam here. The only question here I suppose would ask right here is, are we starting to see signs of exhaustion? Because keep in mind, you can look at this and go uh, A to B and clone, C to D. So notice that level, Brian's favorite fib. Notice also too, this is the original M top there, right? So we'd call this like the market structure top right up in there. So we're starting to get up into areas where I would expect, it's kind of a fun conversation. What do we call these people right here? And also, too, there's a bunch of them up here as well, isn't there? What do we call those people? Trapped bulls, right? Because they bought and then the market just collapsed. And where are the trapped bulls actually sleeping right now? They're sleeping on the couch and they're praying to God they can get off the couch, get a little action from wifey or husbandy or houseplanty or whatever. So you can imagine if we get any kind of rally up into this wick up top here, it's probably going to be met with a bit of selling. So I don't even know whether we can make it up to there. If we go, classic harmonic, just keep it simple, stupid. A to B, right? Actually, make that a little bit higher. C to D, we haven't quite hit the A, B, C, D level yet, so I suppose that's good for the bulls. But we're getting awfully close, eh? So what I would ask is, what does the momentum picture start looking like up here? Do we have signs of divergence? You can see we pushed through this high here, then we made a higher high here, and notice volume. There's no higher highs there. This is the opposite of volume speaks volumes. This is, where the hell are the buyers? Where did they go? And if we actually get a volume bar below this low here, and that number is 10,957 coins, you actually get a volume impetus sell signal. That's not a good sign. 12,000 coins there, so not quite yet. Hasn't broken down yet, but I'll tell you, you get like an up bar here, like they push it up top here, and it's on like almost no volume. That's your warning that, oh boy, this looks like it's over. Willie is officially stupid, so that's never a good sign for the bulls. I don't really like it when MACD makes these kind of V tops like this or V bottoms. Notice people might have thought, okay, there's a low, there's a bottom in here, but notice like we went down, then they rallied it back up, and then they had to break it to new lows. And there's your divergence there to there to there to there. So that's your div on this move here. So this was a bit of a trap. And considering that the ABC, this is like that crude oil chart, right? Where I'd be sitting here saying, well, the level's up here. I don't know whether I really want to go short here because the level's actually a little bit higher. So it's way too late to be a buyer. It's probably a little bit too early to be a seller. And if anything, your comment about maybe when the stock market opens Monday morning and there is the actual news that the ETF has been officially deemed doable, blah, blah, blah. That gives you your pop up top here, which creates all these divergences. And then we start looking for the M to actually go short. So it's way too late to be a buyer. And it's probably too early just as of yet to actually be a seller. So I suppose also too, anybody that's a longtime follower of me knows that I like to trade this one particular setup. It's like a bastardization of the AB equals CD. I call it the bot, but it's just the name. So did we do 33? Yes. Did we do beyond 66? We did. So it's not really a textbook bot. But I suppose that, A, B, C, D. So you can see that's sort of that thinking. And I'd just be curious to see. I got a funny feeling this inverted head and shoulders pattern that you see on here actually set up off the bot entry level. It wouldn't surprise me. So let's see. Survey says, yeah, look at that textbook. So big breakout, boom. Yeah, everybody chases the buys up here. You're supposed to buy at 25 level. And this pullback here, I think, was actually a fantastic little buying opportunity. And of course, the rest is history. You should be thinking about letting some go up top here, not buying up here. And if anything, getting ready for reload zones. Because you could make the argument that wherever the top is up top here, if this thing is still a bull, then you want to hunt the retracement to enter. So that means you want to think things like, at the very least, if this is the low and that's the high, whatever, somewhere in that area. I'm going to be hunting for a consolidation move higher through Collins pump chaser zone. So if this is some sort of trend continuation, just a sort of a consolidation mid move, then we get something like that, and away you go to the upside. Or if this is a trading range, and we have to come all the way back down to the bottom, well, you know where Brian's favorite fib is, 78.6, and that actually would be an interesting level. Interesting how Mountain Man 61.8 is that original bottom. Remember we said wicks and tails like to be eaten, candle body lows for trade location. So like dips down into this zone would basically be into that area, which would be like a buying window, and that would be like the ranging market state trade. So either way, can't be a buyer here. I would be waiting for some sort of pullback into pump chaser zones, or waiting for some sort of full pullback into bottom end of the range for things like reload zone trades. And that would be like a trading range trade. So do we trend continuation here? Bull ABCDs wanting to punch our way higher? I don't know. Only time will tell. What I would say, though, is coming in on the buy side there, probably not the best idea. All right, hope that helps. What time is it? I've got 5 minutes left. All right. So I hope you got some value out of that. Someone should create that to take it out of the institution's power hands and then securitize it. Wait. Yeah. Well, and that's so. Can you understand Matador? Like, and this is sort of thinking like Zug. And think of that Fink guy. Is just like he did with Tesla. It's the exact same fucking thing. I mean, he's a capitalist. He wants to make money, right? Make money from trading. So, and he's so fucking rich that he owns all these politicians. So these politicians stand up there and they bark things like, "Well, people for the rights of people" and all that. But that's just a load of horse shit. But think Zoinky here. Wherever the hell Zoinky went. I don't know whether I got rid of him or not. See if I can find him again. They're going to securitize Bitcoin, and it's exactly like this poor little guy on social media. Oh, actually, this was Zoinky here. All right, now I'm just wasting everyone's time. Where did he go? That's weird. What am I doing wrong, I wonder? Well, anyway. Okay, well, now I'm confused. I know I did reply to him, so maybe I can find the tweet that way. Where was that? Oh, actually, what's super cool is on the website, of course, part of our sort of dashboard subscription package. You see how easy it is to hunt for W's at TRI now? God, this is like shooting fish in a barrel. So, I mean, you can see ETC. Is anybody in the public talking about silver and ETC right now? No. I mean, look at that. That thing looks like a perfect W. Look at this one, Uni. Fuck me. I mean, that's a W. www, buy the fucking W.com, right? Look at this dot. I mean, that looks so perfect. Couldn't believe it. Somebody was asking, well, are these moving averages the algo and the breadth indicator? No, they're just the moving averages of the assets. And when they cross, and you can see like ETC is crossing bullishly here, that's a hugely bullish signal. And my hunch is that, remember I had showed you earlier off the dashboard, all these fives and how they're all below the 52-week 50% levels? Well, that's what the 200 period moving average is here. That's what these yellow lines are. They're the 50% roll. And this is like the trader's way of making fortunes. Because I can come in here like on ADA. I can buy it like 25 cents. I'm going to sell a whack of this at 32. And then I'll put my stop to scratch on the remaining. And if it takes off to the moon, well, fine, so be it. You know, ideally what you want to do is you want to find assets that the 200 SMA is actually twice what the current price is. Those are absolutely the best trades around. But I do see there's a bit of profit to be made in crypto. All I got to do is just wait, patience, discipline, just wait for the W's. And of course, if they happen to come in on bullish divergences that develop through these pushes to new lows, not so much that one, but like here, then this guy Dot and the Matic and stuff like that. Well, geez, that's just gravy. So, you know, again, you know, as Mr. Mo says here, you can clearly see that I've conveyed this message to a lot of TRIers. A lot of people in the public would look at this and go, I don't see any reason to be excited. I look at a chart like, or an image like this and I go, holy shit, where's my wallet? I gotta buy. Holy crap. Then, you know, and this is all at your disposal at TRI, because all we do, right, is, you know, just pull up the weekly commodity trend survey. We'll go down to our cryptocurrencies. I mean, there's a number of different ways you can do this. This is one way. Another way is you can go into the universe. Where are we here? You know, we have free signals on the site, and this is one of the guys that used to work on the, and he was in the school. I won't go into it today, but Davos, I'm seeing a ton of really interesting signals off of the Davos. Here's Davos right here. And this is, I mean, this site is so freaking cool. So, I mean, talk about make your life easy as a trader. I mean, look at these signals. Wow, did that do relatively well? I think so. I mean, look at this. This is so pretty. It's so perfect. I mean, look at this W right here. Oh my goodness. WBTC. I don't even know what the fuck these things are. But you know, the engine just spits these ideas up for you. That's kind of a weird one. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Oh, nice breakout on that one. Oh, look at the W right there. Sweet. Look at this. These things are heading up. Oh, look at that beautiful bottom right in there. Oh, that's Zoog's. I was barking about Zoog on and this Frax the other day on this site. So it's interesting how Davo would be interested in this thing now. Anyway, coming back to what I was saying there just a moment ago, you know, we have like the whole crypto top 30 breadth. Actually, that's the trading algo. So actually, that's not what I wanted to show. Market universe. This is what I want to show you. So this is our entire universe. I mean, we cover everything under the sun. But you can come in here like, I trade on Binance. I'm not in North America, right? And I want to see all the Binance names. Look at how perfect this thing sets everything up here. For you just to simply surf through, this is the Binance universe. I mean, it's just so absolutely perfect. I mean, obviously there's names. Okay, I'm not going to touch that thing. You could just simply surf through. Look at this ADA, right? We were talking about ADA there. And look, this is, and I love this about this website and the engine is Like Sior doesn't just look at one ADA, he looks at everything. So you got ADA versus USD, you got ADA versus BUSD, you got ADA versus Tether, you got ADA versus BNB, you got ADA versus the British pound, got ADA versus what is that, the Russian ruble? I mean, it's you want to trade ADA versus Turkish lira? Awesome, you're covered. Look at this, ADA versus the Brazilian real. Look at that bottom coming in there. So this is more a conversation of ADA versus USD. It looks okay. ADA versus Brazilian real is taken off here. So what that probably means is that the Brazilian real is crapping out versus the US dollar. I mean, look at all the different ADAs you can trade. And Sjord's got everything covered here. I mean, this engine is just so awesome. It's killer. Anyway, so this is just looking at the whole universe, but you want to see something really cool is I could look at the whole universe. And let's see if I can show you this. We'll go back to the market universe. And we'll go, where's Binance? There it is. We'll go, I think I can do this. Let's see what happens. All right, so this is the breadth of Binance. And of course, you can see the W's coming in here. So it looks like Binance names want to rock and roll. But I can actually come in here and I can actually sort the entire universe from best rated coins, technically speaking, to the worst. So now when I look at this and I go grid view, now I've got a nice list of the best looking names in sort of alphabetical order, or not alphabetical, numerological order. And it's just basically going to spit out. Can you see all the W's, people? I mean, this is just awesome. It's so, and we've got this is on Binance. We've got it on Kraken. There's that ETC. Look at all the W's coming in here. It's this thing is if you know how to use this platform, it's an absolute gift. And there's no reason why you just can't surf through these and just look for the most beautiful W's to trade here. Look at this one, AGIXTRY. I have no idea what the hell that thing is, but look at the W coming in there. I'd pay attention to that one. Oh, look at this one, BUSD versus BIDR. I have no idea what that is, but look at that base. Oh, anyway, I could spend hours going through this. It's so freaking awesome. So, are you ready? Because keep in mind, we've been going through like 2 years of crap, right? So it's finally getting to the point where it's actually time to start getting serious about the bull again. So anyway. Okay, that's 5 minutes past the top of the hour. I've actually gone overboard here. So my apologies if you had a question and I didn't get to it. If you did have a question and I didn't get to it, go into the daily brief request room and I will circle around. And tomorrow in the after party, I'll circle around and try and answer questions that were left over from today in the daily brief request room on the site. So be sure to check that out if you have a question that I didn't get to answer here today. Okay, everyone. Slow and steady wins the race. I hope you guys got some value out of all of that. Couple hours. Wish me luck on the road with Lily. PMA for the win. We're trying to make a positive difference in this world, and I really hope that we are doing that. All right. Other than that, I think the only thing left to say to you good people is bye for now.